Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists Podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Will, that's Blake, and today we're here to talk a little Critical Role.
Little
Episode 69.
Oh, sorry. Classic. We're going to talk a little B&B today.
A little B&B?
A little B&B.
What's that?
Bread and butter. Dude.
Ooh, okay.
You
A
guys
little
can use that.
D&D B&B.
Ooh, it's too many. We're getting too many letters now.
It's perfect.
We're going to be talking about some F.C.G. in our D&D B&B.
Ooh, yes we are.
We have layers to this. So, yeah, welcome to the channel, fam. We're going to be talking a little D&D today, a little Critical Role. So, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. I'm doing good. I feel like I frequently talk about coffee, so I'm going to continue that trend. I made a cup and forgot, which is something I've done before. And so I just drank it, and it's well past my normal cutoff. So I'm going to be paying for that later tonight, I'm sure.
I want some of you regulars to help me here, but Will, I feel like this, you talk about your cutoff time and how, I feel like you imply how rare it is that you pass your cutoff time. Yet I feel like more often than not, you are having that second cup after that time.
Listen, what am I supposed to do? Just waste it? Just waste it? Pour it down the drain?
Throw it in a glass and put it in the fridge, bro. Little ice brew for tomorrow.
Yeah. I guess I could have done that.
And you're a Keurig kind of guy?
I mean, not by yes, but not because I'm like, Team Keurig. It's just like what we have. I wish I had something fancier.
It'd be weird if someone was like that, I guess.
But yes.
Yeah, okay.
Which
Cool.
it's starting to act up though. So I think we either need to get a new one or need to get something else. I usually just get like the Walmart brand.
Yeah, okay.
But I think I oscillate between Breakfast Blend and Donut Shop. Those are my two typical go-tos.
You're a little adventurous with your coffee, huh?
I mean, not really, because there's like all those flavored ones, but since I'm just a black coffee guy, I stay away from those.
Is it fair to call this just black coffee though? These sound pretty flavored in and of themselves.
The Breakfast Blend, it's just like the blend of the, I wanted to say kernels. What are they called? Beans, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
But some of them are like French vanilla, and they have like actual like flavors in them. But
okay.
I stay away from those.
Okay, all right. I'm just curious about this breakfast blend.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Rocco.
Yeah, Rocco.
Okay, cool.
But did I ask you how you were doing? How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's been busy. It's busy, a little stressful.
Yeah.
We're always trying to figure out how to survive, pay the bills.
Yeah, it's going around.
Yeah, it's the best part of my life. The existential dread of can I eat tomorrow?
Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, that's what I tell my kids. Can we eat today? And hopefully the answer is yes. So funny because otherwise it would be so sad.
Right. So of course you have to laugh to not cry sometimes. That's true. That's just life.
Yeah. So announcements.
Wizard Witch Wild One penultimate episode. Discussion coming on that soon.
Have you listened to it yet?
I haven't finished it.
Super good. Great episode. So we'll have that coming.
We still are planning on doing a Daggerheart video, but that's probably not going to happen before I have to go out of town. So that means it's probably not going to happen for like at least 2 weeks or so.
I don't know if you're going to say it means it's probably not going to happen. And I was like, oh no, it's The Witcher all over again.
Witcher season 3, I'm probably going to try on my flight. So I don't know if it'll, I mean, I think I'm going to watch it. I got to send Henry off but with his correct fanfare, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you haven't seen it yet. Do you plan on even watching it at all?
No, I don't. I actually got rid of my Netflix subscription. So I'd have to watch it through other means.
Yeah.
to
Well,
see
that is possible, as they say.
Yeah.
Netflix does games now. Did you know this?
No.
Maybe we could talk about this. I don't want to
Huh.
distract us too much, like in our next Pixel Bits or something. But yeah, like I don't know if you ever heard of the game Oxenfree.
Yes, I have.
It's a little indie game for those of you that
Yeah.
aren't aware. I played it several years back. I really liked it. If you like those type of story-driven kind of indie games. Anyway, Oxenfree 2 recently came out, and I saw that it's on Netflix for free. I mean, you can still buy it on Steam or whatever. I've never played a game through Netflix, so I don't really know how that works, but apparently it's a thing. They have games.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. All right. Well,
yeah.
are we ready to rock then?
Yeah, I think so. Unless there's anything else, but I don't think there is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for you guys listening, before we dive into one of our deep dive discussions on the latest Critical Role episode, we'd like to do a little recap. You know, these can be long episodes. We'd like to update you guys on what happened. And then what we do is we cut that out and we post it as a separate video on the channel. So if you're watching just that recap video, hello, and click the link in the description to be able to see the whole episode discussion. And also, we want to know what you guys think. So feel free to jump into that discussion and give us your thoughts. And also, just a quick plug for the Discord. We do have our watch parties in the Discord. Everybody's welcome. Come chat with us. We'll be active in there leading up to Thursday's episode.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, we had a few people come through that explicitly cited your welcome message. So, yeah, come hang out, y'all. We always love it when new people come around. So,
yeah, you're always welcome. So, except for you, Joe. You're not welcome.
Freaking Joe.
Yeah. All right. So, let me grab my little notes here. Where are my notes? Where'd I put these things? Where are you, notes? Here you are. All right, so episode number 69,
nice.
A cursed episode, or maybe a blessed one. Episode 69 called Nice. And this episode opens up with the party has a pretty good idea of what they want to do, where they want to go. I either at the start of this episode or towards the end, they're going to determine to eventually go to one of our 2D lettered characters. But before they can do that, they have to wait a day to get their charges back on their teleportation staff that they took from Ludinus's tower. So they're thinking, okay, what should we actually do today? What are our options? And there's a couple, the party's going to decide to eventually split up here. Part of the party, Chetney, Laudna, and Imogen, Chetney notices some people who are not parasailing, hang gliding over Zephyra, and they're like, let's go do that. So they're going to head off that direction to have a little bit of fun for the day. Meanwhile, Orem really would like to visit his family, and more importantly, to see the graves of his father-in-law, Derrig, and his husband, Will. Also during this time, Ashton is sort of, as like they're splitting up, Ashton actually takes a moment where he sort of steps aside, and as Taliesin describes it, has a bit of a panic attack, just like thinking about really everything that Keyleth just shared with him, that he's a titan of blood. And it's in having sort of this moment of a panic attack and kind of recomposing himself that they notice the rocks on the ground seem to vibrate and almost like a heartbeat kind of resonate with his breaths, almost like some kind of communication that's happening there. Despite all of this, they sort of recompose themselves and they head off to catch up with the party. They do actually sneak over to Fanny Z's place, the clothing store, and Ashton gets his new outfit, which I don't remember the exact details on it. I think there was definitely like a couple of showings of the Hishari symbol. I think there was like some brass and some black, but bottom line, Fanny Z asks Ashton, how do you feel? And Ashton says, I feel seen, which was just a very cool line from Taliesin. We cut over to Orem, who goes over to see Nell And also during this time as well, it's either Fern or FCG who talks about how stressed they are. I think it's Fern, and FCG's like, you wanna smoke, and they begin to smoke. FCG, I think at one point says he's smoking through his ear or something. I don't know, but so they're smoking. Orum's also like trying to converse with Nell, like despite the smoke around them. They do ask questions like, "Hey, what do you think of the gods? Like, Nell, are you religious?" And Nell's like, "No, not quite, not exactly." They talk. Nell also asks about Orum and is like, "Yeah, give me the details." Orum's too humble to brag about himself. Like, how's he been doing? And FGG jokes about Orum being really great, but that he can fall off things. He can kind of lose his balance, and they joke about the skyship that he fell off of in a previous episode. All this to say, they eventually decide to go to Will and Derek's graves. Nell leads them out into this valley that is beset between the mountains around Zephra, and they eventually find this pasture with hundreds of like cairn stones that have been stacked in like these memorials and sort of like makeshift tombstones even that have been set across this valley. I honestly can't do justice to Liam's basically monologue as he's talking to Will and Derek. It is very somber. He basically apologizes that he didn't visit the last time he was here and talks about specifically to Will how much he loves him and how much he misses him and how what they're doing is for the greater good. It's so much bigger than just the two of them. And basically has this line that says, where he says, I don't know when I'll be back or if I'll be back. And it's just this incredibly beautiful moment from Liam. And I think Fern even like pipes in like and says something like, he says like, I'll see you soon. And Fern's like, but not too soon, right? To which Orum's like, it's all pretty brief in the grand scheme of things. Separate from that, we cut back over to team hang gliding. Chetney, Laudna, and Imogen, they go to this hang gliding thing, and it kind of has like the feel of like when you're like on a tourist destination and you go like bungee jumping, or you see the people who are doing like the it is like bungee jumping, like it's bungee jumping. I can't think of what I'm trying to describe it as something else. But there's a couple of instructors. I think one of them quotes them 5 gold, and the other instructor's like, oh, well, here's our other package. It's 20 gold, and you get to ride around, you get to keep your goggles. It's gonna be really great. They end up basically eventually doing this, and whereas with Orum we had this very somber, serious interaction, this is high octane episode 69 shenanigans.
Chaos demons.
Yes. They are flying all over the place. Matt is asking for strength checks. In fact, at one point, Chetney and Laudna are like kind of dogfighting and like flying around each other, and Laudna's doing like sparks in the sky to create like this like fun effect. And even people down below are like even watching this, like seeing this happen. And at some point, one of the flight instructors like, okay, we're done with this. This is getting way out of hand. To which begins to like steer Laudna's hang glider back. Laudna takes back over, and like I said, it's just pure shenanigans. They eventually do make it back in one piece, no crashing, even though it was close on Chetney's side of things. I would say just watch our video on this whole interaction because it's pretty great. But then once the flying's done, the party reconvenes and they're like, where should we go now? And Orum mentions a bar called the Airy Irie that's really popular. That would be a great place just to unwind and relax. They go to this bar, they begin to drink, and they have a conversation that honestly is like most of their conversations lately. They start talking about the gods and what they think about them. And they even talk about F.C.G. Like, could F.C.G. be like a latent like god of some kind? Like his connection's pretty interesting. And also with this, Orm finally asked Chetney about his toy career. And he's like, are you famous, dude? Like, did you? I had no idea. But there is one conversation that's pretty interesting. Laudna actually kind of steals away for a moment. And speaks to essentially Delilah deep within her and says, "Are you still there? Like, is that you? Are you still around?" She gets no response, but later, as they're wrapping up for the night, and Laudna kisses Imogen and says goodnight to Imogen, as she's walking away, she hears a voice in her mind that says, "No matter who you pray to, no matter who you reach for, you are and will always be mine." And then we go to break. So, you want to take it from there, my friend?
Yes, sir. Well done. So we pick up in the second half with the crew kind of still celebrating, drinking, and Chetney actually uses his new sword to light one of Fern's cigarettes. And as he does this, the sword speaks to him telepathically, and it warns him that the ruler of this city is trying to deceive him, along with the rest of the council. Do not trust the voice of the Tempest. The party then kind of wraps things up and heads to Orum's mom's house to crash for the night. But before bed, Fern does decide to scry on Dancer. And so she scries and she gets this vision of a street past sunset and can actually see Dancer kind of stumbling and catching herself on a nearby wall. She's drunk. And she has a metallic creature on her shoulder and also one following behind her. She keeps walking, I think throws up, and Fern basically recognizes the city around her as Eos. And that's when the vision ends. So she tells the party, and they decide we should probably head there tomorrow after we talk to Keyleth. Orym also tries the Sending Stone with Caleb, but it doesn't work. And Laudna checks the Treshy Scribe Orb, which is dark, and then everyone goes to sleep. We have our long rest. It's the next morning, and the party gets up and heads to go see Keyleth. Kind of on their way, Chetney tells everybody, like, hey, I don't trust this girl. And the sword once again warns him, like, hey, be on guard. So they arrive to Keyleth. They tell her their plans and kind of just get back up to speed with one another. And she says, you know what, you guys have proven yourselves very capable, and you know you have the ability to teleport because of the staff. Whenever you're ready and you feel comfortable, perhaps you could go to Ruidus and kind of see what's up and maybe come back and let me know. And they're like, yeah, I think we're ultimately headed that direction. But for now we need to go to Eos. And Keyleth's like, you know what, I need to leave and go talk to some of my contacts. So what if I go to Eos with you, and then from there I can teleport you guys to the Shattered Teeth, because the party also wants to go there, but they can't teleport themselves there because they've never been there. So that's the plan. And Keyleth's like, okay, just give me a minute to go tell the guards what's going on, and also kind of get into my less conspicuous getup. And so Keyleth actually transforms into just like a normal looking, I believe, human, which we later come to find out will be Timothée Chalamet. But just kind of an unassuming disguise, so the voice of the Tempest isn't, accosted while she's traveling. While this kind of whole conversation, whole encounter is going on, Chet has been like very suspicious, and the sword is like talking to him and telling him like, don't trust her, she's lying. But ultimately they all gather, and Imogen actually has given the staff to F.C.G. So the F.C.G. will be the one to teleport them to Eos, because he's more familiar, I guess, was the idea. So F.C.G. is the one teleporting. Matt has Sam roll a D100 for teleportation during the solstice, and he actually rolls a 1. So everyone gets stuck in the liminal space between teleports, and they all take 22 force damage. Sam rolls again. This time it's a 51, so they do ultimately poof and find themselves on the streets of Eos. It's early morning here, and the streets are very quiet. So the party then follows Fern, because she remembers from her scry which direction the city was in, until they get to what they believe to be the correct district, and then F.C.G. casts Locate Creature on Dancer, and they begin leading the rest of the way. While they're traveling, the sword once again is talking to Chet, being like, all right, wait for your chance, maybe kind of lag behind, get her by herself, and then make your move. He ultimately doesn't do anything. And we arrive to this building, and F.C.G's like, she's in this building on the second floor. So they try to formulate a plan of what to ultimately do here. And this includes Keyleth wild shaping into a small mouse. But they ultimately decide to send Imogen up alone at first, since Dancer doesn't know
Mhm.
who Imogen is. However, she goes upstairs and it's just a long hallway with a bunch of closed doors. So FCG comes to join her and able to pinpoint which door due to the locate creature. So Imogen then knocks, and after a bit of flirty persuasion, actually gets Dancer to come open the door. It's at this point that FCG reveals that they are also there, and Dancer freaks out. But they quickly cast calm emotions on her and have a conversation. One of the first things that happens is FCG asks who this metallic creature is that they don't recognize, and Dancer says it's Pussy the Second. And Pate and Pussy actually get into a little bit of an altercation. But FCG says they're here because we need help, and we also want to help you. You've noticed all this craziness going on with the moon, right? Like, we're trying to fix all of that and save the world, essentially.
Right.
And FCG's like, I even have friends that could maybe heal your arm, help you regrow it. And Dancer says, I don't need to be fixed. I've learned a lot from putting this arm together, and it's a reminder of, be careful of who you trust. And FCG's like, well, I really can't like move on until I close this chapter with you. So like, I'm not asking for your forgiveness, but I just am asking for a chance to do good for somebody else. And Dancer says that, if you came for help, like I'll do what I can, but there's nothing I can do to make you feel better about like what you're hanging on to. And FCG says, okay, well, we'll treat this like a job. We'll pay you for your help, and then we never have to talk again. And Dancer says, deal. So they then tell her about this harness that they came to get her advice on. And FCG actually casts Lesser Restoration on Dancer because she was still super hungover. And so once that happens, she's like, okay, well, let me go downstairs, meet the rest of your party, and take a look at this thing. So they do just that. And after looking at it, she knows quickly that she needs some help with this. And she says, specifically, I need to get Imahara Joe's advice. He's more classically trained, and together we can probably figure this thing out. So they need to get back to Bassaris. Um, boom, that's the plan. They're like, okay, Keyleth, can you take us there? We need a tree. So they're on the move to find a tree in Eos. And as they're traveling, none other than Shithead arrives once again. This bird with a vengeance against FCG, who we last saw here in Eos. He swoops in, takes a deuce on FCG, and
Classic.
yeah, and basically combat begins. But Fern basically one shots this thing with a scorching ray. But as you recall, like last time, it revives. And so it begins to revive. FCG grabs it and tries to like shove it in his chassis. And as
You
it's
talk about him
reviving,
eating it or something at
yeah,
some point.
they
Did
don't
he
know
just
what to
eat
do
it
with this
or
thing.
yeah.
And Imogen actually kills it again with shocking grasp. And while it's reviving this next time, Fern casts Speak with Animals and speaks to it. It's like, what are you doing? Like, what's your goal? And it says it just like hates FCG. It seems unworthy and it pisses him off. And FCG's like, who is your master? Like, why do you do this? And the bird can't remember because it's been such a long time. But yeah, its master is dead and it can't die. So I hate FCG. I live to mess with FCG. Um, the bird actually then gets free, but FCG casts Turn Undead on it, which Laudna also has to make the saving throw for. She does. The bird does not. And so it just disintegrates and will not be reviving. So FCG is glad to kind of get that done with, dealt with. Meanwhile, Keyleth and Dancer are like, what is happening here? And
Yeah.
Keyleth thinks they're all very strange but fun. And she says that she used to have friends like this and that she's really missed this. Um, they then are approaching the college because that is where some trees are. And they actually get accosted by a guard as they try to like get into the college area. And Fern's like, I'm Professor Calloway. Don't you know who I am? And they're ultimately like, hey, we just need to like look at that tree over there. Can you just like let us go look at the tree? And the guard's like, okay, fine, but that better be all you do. And Ashton actually makes like an intimidation check and is like, I'm gonna remember you because like for like trying to
Yeah.
mess with us. And I think the guard's name was
Yeah.
Stanley.
Yeah.
Um, But anyway, they go to the tree. Keyleth casts the plant striding spell, which I can't remember what it's called for some reason. And they head to Bassaros, and that is where the episode ends. Once again, episode 69 of Campaign 3. Nice. And a link to our full discussion, as a reminder, will be in the description below, so come check that out.
Nice.
Nice. I was
Cool.
it was so funny when I saw that they named the episode that. It was just perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, fun episode. Some hijinks for sure. And
Yes.
you know, a classic Liam O'Brien amazing role play moment as well. Dude is the master.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start today?
Oh man. I don't even know. I guess there's not necessarily too much to say on it, but the freaking chaos portion of the episode with the sky sails and stuff.
Yeah.
I was joking that they're gonna get Orem demoted. He'll no longer be Savior
Yeah.
Blade due to their hijinks. That moment was just so fun. I can't wait to hopefully one day see that animated, because I think that'll just be just perfect. Especially, I think somebody in the Discord said it would be hilarious if it was like juxtaposed with Orem's scene, like, and it just kept cutting back between the two scenes.
Yeah. Oh, that's so smart.
I thought that would be amazing.
Yeah. There are some really great insights or jokes in the Discord, by the way. There was one that I loved. Oh man, I need to find it so I can give this person credit, by the way. And I don't think I can find it in the moment. So I'll just go ahead and say to you, I'm sorry that I'm not going to give you credit because I wasn't expecting to reference it. But last episode when Keyleth, we're doing the watch party, Keyleth said something about like attacks on temples, and someone in our Discord did the meme of like the side eye bear, you know,
Yeah,
with the party having attacked the Dawnfather temple. So there's some good jokes that come out of there, but yeah, it'd be fun to see that. The whole thing, another thing I liked about this whole interaction was like the random items that also came into play. Yes. Like the horn of alarm, and then Chetney's butcher's bib that he was wearing as well. So it was fun.
The horn of alarm was such a great callback in that moment. That whole section was just so funny, and how perfect to be in episode 69, which I don't know if we talked about it or not last episode. But historically there's been some sad episode 69s, so it was fun to have more of a lighthearted one, but like you just, referenced with Orem's moment, not that that was like sad, but it was, just a heartfelt type of moment. And then I guess we did have Delilah resurgence, which we already knew she was back
supposedly
from the Bordor moment, but yeah.
Supposedly Delilah.
Yeah, you want to talk about that? You think maybe not old D?
Well, I know in the watch party I was like, just watch, guys, it's Vecna. And then our man Sai, he also talked about the voice being different, but also that it wasn't Vecna's voice. So I guess in this Occam's razor, it was just the way Matt role played it. It was just slightly different. But what if it's not Delilah and it's something else?
Like what?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, I'm here for, the crazy theories, but I think it was I think it was just Delilah for my money.
That's the simplest explanation for the small-minded.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I mean, let's just assume it is Delilah. The door seemingly reopened by her killing Bordor.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here that doesn't feel rehashed territory, that it doesn't feel like, oops, all Delilah, like somehow Delilah returned. You've seen, campaigns 1 and 2. How do you feel about the resurgence of Delilah?
Um, I mean, I don't have a problem with it in terms of somehow Palpatine returned type of
Oh no.
scenario. I am interested to see like what Matt does with it, where it goes from here. Because like you said, we kind of had this vanquished Delilah arc, which I even at the end of that, I think most people felt like she wasn't fully dealt with. Like that there was room for something like this to happen. But I guess I'm curious what here's what I'll say. I don't see that happening again. Like I don't see Bell's Hell's psychic traveling into, Laudna's psychic realm and having a big boss battle at I think that was cool, and maybe there will still be like some element of that, but that's been done. So I'm curious to see how does dealing with Delilah come to form now? Like, is there some sort of like exorcism that could happen? Does it involve like Laudna turning away from her warlock abilities? Does she have to find a new patron? Um, I'm just, and I guess I'm repeating myself, but I'm just curious to see like how this shapes up. Maybe it's something she can't fully be rid of, but that's not like super narratively satisfying. So I would imagine there will be something. But more that's like grand scale Laudna story arc. More small scale, I'm really interested to see if there is a Vecna connection, and not to say that that voice was Vecna or anything, but we know that that's who Delilah served, and we know that Vecna, along with all the other gods, is you know priority number one is to stop what's going on here so they can not be wiped out. So could there be kind of an enemy of my enemy is my friend? I mean, we know that Laudna intentionally kind of embraced Delilah in that Bordor moment because she knew that like she needed to be powerful for what they were going against. And it seems like she reached out to her on that cliffside for kind of like a similar reason. I'm not saying that like, hey, it's all cool between us now, but like I think Laudna is clearly willing to make that kind of deal with the devil in a sense of like, help me help my friends, and we'll see where things go. I know I'm rambling here, but I guess I'm interested to see what this dynamic looks like in the immediate future, and I'm also interested to see how connected Delilah is with Vecna still. I don't want to get too in the weeds on stuff in earlier campaigns or anything, but it's possible at least that maybe she's soured on him, or at least is not fully devoted to him in the same way that she was. Like maybe she's just out for numero uno right now. Or maybe, like I said, since Vecna is going to be kind of on team, let's stop Predathos. If they are still connected, then maybe there is another. I don't want to say betrayer god because Vecna wasn't a betrayer god, but maybe another alliance with the more evil gods, similar to whatever Fern's got going on with Asmodeus.
Yeah.
I know that
No,
was a lot. So, like, what are your thoughts?
I have like a lot of things to parse there. The most recent comment you just made, Delilah potentially being soured on Vecna. Not having seen campaign 1 and 2, so you would know better than me. I do know in the episode where they go to Delilah's domain and they fight to save Laudna, that Delilah explains to the group, if not through Laudna, there's other paths, which I'll table that a little bit, but also makes reference to, I think, her master or something to that regard.
I think you're right.
So if not Vecna, then who? Like, who would that be? The only thing I wonder about. It seems like it would have to be Vecna, but maybe not. I don't know.
No, I think it definitely is then. Because I don't really have any reasons to think she's soured on Vecna. And last we saw in campaign 1, she hadn't. But
Yeah.
how many times are you gonna take L's before you decide to try something new?
I do think, and I mentioned it in the Discord during the watch party, that it makes sense for Delilah to speak up with everyone kind of calling on their champion, like to act. It makes sense to also have Delilah do that for Laudna. I do wonder, like, long term, what Delilah wants, because we know it was mentioned that if Laudna dies, Delilah says, yeah, there's other pathways for me. It's not just Laudna. But we don't know, and maybe I don't know if you can speak to it in the first two campaigns. Is she in campaign 2 at all?
No.
Okay, so in campaign 1, I'm just wondering, like, what is she scheming? And I also even wonder if like that story thread will even get pulled on at any point with just the party heading it seemingly to Ruidus. What's your take on that? Like, what do you think Delilah's wanting to do?
Yeah, I don't know. That's part of the reason why I wondered about the Vecna connection. And again, I don't think she's soured on Vecna. Like I don't. There's no real evidence for that, and especially you brought up the whole master comment that you just referred to. But I guess I just don't know if her goals are necessarily still to like just serve Vecna. So I'm curious like what her personal goals are. And I think obviously number one is to like come back. So I don't know if that means like taking over Laudna's body, or if she does have other things out there. Because I do remember your comment where she made it seem like, if Laudna dies, I still have other options. I do remember that, but I also feel like I remember early in the campaign you and I like assumed the way Delilah was in Laudna's head, she was probably in a bunch of people's heads. But then I felt like we had something come out to where that we knew that wasn't the case, and
Seemed
like
like it
Laudna
wasn't.
was
Yeah.
like the only one.
Right.
So I don't know entirely how to reconcile those two things. Like I guess just maybe
Yeah.
Laudna could be the only one, but Delilah still has other options.
Something else I wanted to talk about with Delilah is like it's another detail I wanted to hit on while you were sharing earlier.
Yeah.
When she says, no matter who you pray to, no matter who you reach for, you are and will always be mine. And we've talked a lot about like the origins of Laudna. That was a huge story point. And we talked about like what would it mean for her to, even in early episodes, like to be exercised, so to speak. They were in the Starpoint Conservatory. They read as much, I think, like a detail about something like that, like someone separating from their patron. So this could be a story point eventually. However, I know you said you didn't think it was wasn't a very uplifting thing, but I could definitely see a pathway where ultimately Laudna is irrevocably tied to Delilah. There is no separating the two. Delilah said as much before she fought the party in the upside down Whitestone. And it does make me wonder if this is kind of a spoilers. Sorry, everybody, spoilers. Final Fantasy X, knowing that Titus, I don't know which one it is, knowing that he was essentially a dream and would be returning, back to whatever. Sometimes there's just like, I think tragic ends to characters. And I do wonder if that will happen in some way with Laudna, and that, there is no separating the two. And, I don't know. Now I'm rambling a little bit, but it feels weird, I guess, to pause and explore a story thread where it feels like every episode we're continuing to like urge on to this Ruidus finale, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So yeah. I mean, I'm with you in terms of what's the ultimate conclusion to this, and I'm not sure. I think it's at least possible, like because it's D&D, and I think that's on the table to like quote unquote happy ending in terms of like fully extricating Delilah. But I don't know if it's probable. So yeah, I don't know. I wonder if Laudna is like Delilah's phylactery in a way. Am I saying that word right?
Yeah, what an interesting take. I really like
like
that.
that's
Yeah.
the only and obviously it's a D&D game. When Marisha rather came up with her idea for the character, Matt could have, interwoven into the backstory. That's what DMs do. So it's not worth like too hard probing there. But my question with that would be like, why would Delilah randomly pick this girl she murdered and hung to be her phylactery, but like there's ways for it to have made sense. Maybe it was even unintentional to some extent. But anyway, I just know that, it would at least make sense characterization wise that Delilah could have been potentially looking into like lichdom, as it were, and it would make sense for why part of her still is around. But yeah, so I don't know if, yeah, like you said, with like where's the space for this necessarily? Like, is it like a post we deal with whatever this Predathos situation is, and now it's like, all right, now let's go, you know, try to deal with Delilah again, or
Maybe it's Bell's Hells reunited. I don't know.
it honestly totally could be something like that
Yeah.
for sure.
I do, by the way, as we were talking about this, I do think Delilah still works for Vecna because Keyleth in the previous episode, telling like the history of some things, basically says they talk about ascension and she says it's not possible anymore. She says, have you heard of the Whispered One? And Matt had the detail of the chill going up Laudna's spine, which could be just like from like trauma, I guess. But I'm willing to bet it was like, hey, you have a connection there with the Whispered One, an active connection. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think I probably shouldn't have even brought up the soured thing, 'cause I think she absolutely is still like hard tethered to Vecna. But yeah, I guess just a better way of put it would have been like, is she still like taking orders from, or is that still her main concern, is to do like as Vecna wishes, or is she more kind of like rogue and is trying to, focus on more so getting herself back to
Well, yeah, I mean, I
reality.
think if Vecna is, I mean, if Asmodeus is like laying down arms with like the prime deities, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility for Vecna to be like, hey, no more scheming. Like we're all on board for stopping Predathos, and for, Delilah to be like, this might be interesting if some big worm ate my boss, maybe I could do my own thing. So I think that's not unrealistic what you're saying.
It'll be interesting to see for sure, like just what comes of these alliances, as it were. But yeah, I don't know what her ultimate plan is, aside from like taking over Laudna's body, which seems to be like it's never happened. Um, but there's been hints of that, like with when she destroyed the Gnarl Rock. Is that what it was?
Shard of the Gnarl Rock.
Yeah. And we still don't even, not that that's like a Chekhov's gun, but there still really wasn't, we don't know what she did with that.
Yeah.
And
Right.
there's been twice, I think, maybe more, but Matt's described like the pulsing heartbeat.
Yeah.
So that seems to allude to me like an attempt to like fully assume control, but I don't know.
All right. Anything else you want to share about Delilah?
I don't think so. Just very interested to see where that story thread goes.
Yeah. Another story thread. F.C.G's little bird friend. Let me go back to my notes here. A detail that we didn't bring up in the recap, when Fern spoke to the bird or the raven or whatever it is, it mentioned its master's name was Gargo. Ring any bells?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if this was like a callback to someone or something, but interesting. And it is seemingly gone for good, by the way. From how Matt described it.
That was the impression I got, which is kind of sad, honestly. I felt, because here's my take on this bird.
I guess the bird was called Gargo, actually.
Yeah, I couldn't tell what was going on.
The master called it Gargo. Okay, so I got that wrong. Okay. Sorry, continue.
No, yeah, because I couldn't parse that either, of if the master was named that or the bird was, but that would make sense if it's what the master called the bird. Oh yeah, I was just, for my money, especially since the bird made a comment about like how old it was and how it doesn't remember. For me, it makes sense for the bird and the master to be whoever FCG killed in the care and the culling, and like
Yeah.
as a last dying breath curse, be that a literal curse or metaphorically cursed FCG with this undying bird somehow. So like maybe it was like the familiar or something,
Yeah.
even though it doesn't seem like a familiar, but something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so that at least fills the gaps for me. Obviously, there's still stuff to unpack there. But if it's not that, then I have no idea what this thing is.
That checks out for me. And that was kind of my perception too, was, dying breath, I curse you, Gargo is born. And FCG just, has a buried memory of it, I guess, from when he went like full Terminator mode.
Yeah,
So, okay.
because it's not related to Dancer.
Right.
And
Dancer didn't make any comment of it, because I did wonder if Dancer would be like, hey, the bird that I cursed you with or something.
yeah,
But yeah.
and so there's nothing else in FCG's past besides the care and the culling that we would know that like somebody would have it out for FCG for. Now it's entirely possible in those thousands of years that there is other incidents that we just aren't privy to. But
Yeah. And help me here for our listeners. I think the care and the culling was mentioned by Imahara Joe when he was first looking at FCG and described this event hundreds of years in the past, where Aormatons who were presented as gifts and caretakers and what have you, basically like Order 66 like went
yeah,
full murder bot and killed like a bunch of like political rivals. I think that's accurate, right?
yeah, they were like sleeper cells basically that were activated to
Right.
then assassinate, like you said, political opponents or
I was thinking Order 66. I was like, yeah, they went full Rule 34. And then I was like, wait, that's not what that is.
that's something else.
It's the wrong one. Abort.
Abort.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, the only other clue is that in the Odahan battle where everyone
Yes.
died and everyone was kind of having those weird flashbacks in the white light. FCG saw like an old kind face or something. There was some face which we still don't know what that was, but my assumption back then was that might have been whoever FCG was caring for and then potentially assassinated. So maybe that person is the same person that cursed this bird.
It's interesting because I'd be curious your thoughts here in terms of like pacing compared to previous campaigns. Going back to a comment we made earlier, it feels hard to like give room to other story threads because it feels, not in a negative way, it feels like we're just so focused on like this grand scheme of things. And as I was thinking through each individual characters, it doesn't feel like we've had, and I guess hindsight's 2020, because when I think about the Briarwoods, I think of this, and having seen Legend of Vox Machina, obviously, Percy's story seems so central. Same with Grog and I can't think what they're called, but the barbarian tribe.
The herd.
Feels like a very big central story point. I haven't necessarily felt that with these characters lately. I guess in the last maybe 20 or 30 episodes, with the exception of maybe Ashton. Do you feel like that's a fair take, or does the plot feel like it typically feels like? I'm not even really making much of an insight here other than just like, okay, yeah, we haven't really dove into some of these other details that have come up or have the time to, I guess.
I think the just the nature of Critical Role, it typically is like arcs that are focused on one character. Like that's typically been like the defining bookends for like a given arc, is that we're personally exploring something with somebody's backstory. Like Percy was the Briarwoods, Grog was the herd. So I feel like that's still the trend here, but maybe it just feels less like spotlighted as they've kind of evolved when the campaigns have gone on. Because I would say that I would say the same was true of campaign 2, and I think the same is true of this campaign, just again maybe to like a less emphasized extent. Like I do feel like we're getting into an Ashton arc. Maybe it won't, I don't know if it'll be full fledged enough to like be considered an arc, but we're about to go, to the Shattered Teeth and figure out what's going on with this primordial stuff. It feels like we've had a lot of Imogen focused arc this
True.
campaign,
True. Yeah.
with her being Rudis born and her mom and all that stuff. Um, to a lesser extent, Chetney recently with Uthadern and,
Yeah.
Santa Claus. So it still feels true to me that is continuing in this campaign as it did in prior, but like there definitely are more like in your face examples of it, like Percy and the Briarwoods,
Yeah.
because that was like not only his story, but also like the main story, similar to like Imogen right now in this campaign. Like,
Yeah. And I guess I wonder, I have questions for certain characters, and I wonder when, and part of it, I mean, I trust Matt to, continue the story well, but I wonder how like certain details will get dug into. Like, for example, Vern's parents haven't been a story point in a long time, maybe 40 episodes. And there's the detail of like the Nightmare King and seemingly deleting memories from Fern's parents. Not to mention Fern's parents being seemingly younger than Fern. Like that's a whole story thread that I'm like, okay, will we have time for that? Now F.C.G. with this bird. I mentioned it earlier with Delilah. Okay, I'm really interested. Where's this going to go with Laudna? But do they have time to pull on that thread? And it's not a criticism. It's like an outwardly processing. Like I'm very curious in how this compares to previous campaigns. But so yeah, something that's on top of my head, I guess.
yeah, it feels similar to me. So I think that like most of your burning questions will probably get addressed in some way or another. That doesn't mean they'll be like fully fleshed out arcs or anything,
Right.
Like the Fern's parents ones, I feel like there's lots of mystery with Fern still. And so I feel like that'll be explored somewhat. But to get like specific answers to the missing memories and stuff, like we might not ever get that. That might be something like in a campaign wrap up, somebody has to ask Matt. Because I feel like we do have kind of like the peripheral information to like make assumptions there. So it might not ever be like so urgent that that's like addressed on screen again.
Right.
But that being said, I think like the kind of overarching entire mystery soup with Fern will definitely get some spotlight. So maybe that'll, help us out some.
Mystery
Yeah.
soup. Good
Yeah.
callback.
I was going to say time is a
with
weird
Fern.
soup, but yeah,
Yeah.
we had
That's
to
good.
evolve.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else?
Speaking of FCG, kind of messed up what the crew did here with Dancer.
Yeah.
Like,
Ooh, I need to write this down for my video idea I'm working on. Find my notes here. Thank you for that.
I don't want to oversimplify this, but
No, let's maybe we should though, because this is very questionable.
yeah, but I just meant like in terms of like the terms I'm going to use. I'm not trying to be like too overly simplistic, but essentially FCG caused a lot of trauma for Dancer, and it's a very like almost like abuser abusee type of relationship, and they went at this with absolutely like no grace or like thoughtfulness in that regard. Just barge up in, lie, like don't even like lie to get in the door, and then cast in a literal emotionally manipulative spell like to even then have a conversation. Now I don't know. I don't think like malicious foresight went into those decisions necessarily. Not malicious isn't the right word, but like it's kind of a messed up thing to do. I think FCG has like a lot of, and I do think it is intentional characterization to some extent by Sam, of course. Like I don't think it's just obliviousness. So I think this is part of like the growth of FCG, but I did just, it was pretty messed up how they approached all of this and basically manipulated her into helping in a way.
Yeah, and I mean, for context, just be as cut and dry as possible. Um, F.C.G murdered all of Dancer's friends
Yeah.
and tore off Dancer's arm.
Yeah.
Like murdered all of it. They're all dead. And not just, we know it wasn't just Dancer's creations. We know that there were other parts of the troop as well. I don't remember the exact details on like who else was part of the troop. Isn't that right? Like, wasn't there also some people or like other members or?
I thought it was just creations, but I don't know.
Okay, maybe not then. Well, I mean, still, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm on the bandwagon that, sentient creatures are they're people too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the whole thing was, and I think they were coming off like the high of the hang gliding a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think in some ways Matt played Dancer a bit too willing. Honestly, I think that sounds like a criticism, but I was almost surprised. We know the last time Dancer spoke with F.C.G. And I think this is why I really appreciate you were using the phrasing even like manipulative, because I think it's accurate. The last time they spoke, Dancer said, "Don't speak to me ever again. Like, don't reach out to me ever again." And they ignored that and showed up at their door. Didn't warm him up first. Wasn't like, just like, "Hi."
Yeah.
And then asked, the whole thing was very messed up. It was big. Are we the baddies energy for sure. And I love that you brought this up, by the way.
Yeah. Very, very selfish and inconsiderate the way they handled all of it. And to your Matt characterization, I mean, I guess it's you got to wonder how much like the calm emotions comes into effect there. Like obviously you're not you are manipulating their emotions, but it's not like you're charming them and like dictating
Right.
what they do, but I guess it, alleviates some of the panic or like fear that maybe she would have been feeling. Um but yeah, and like totally like what like uh narcissistic, like kind of a abusive behavior to be like, "Hey, you need to forgive me." Which is like that's not what
Yeah.
FCG said. I think FCG even said like,
No, I
"You don't
mean,
have to forgive me," but like the dynamic of like being like, "I can't move on till you like, give me the
I thought
okay."
it was kind of forceful. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there comes a point where like you respect the other person's wishes and you settle it yourself, which is why I love that Matt also wasn't like, okay, I do. I
Yeah.
will say the fact that Dancer's being so forthcoming, I don't know if you thought this at all, but I actually wondered if Dancer's planning a backstab of some kind. Like, yeah, sure, I'll help you. Yeah, let's go to Basros, where my hometown. And by the way, where you're hated. And let's go back there. Yeah, why not? We know she has an ally, the other shop owner or something. If you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Can't
I
think of
don't
her
remember their
name.
name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so I mean, I could see a situation playing out where they get there and they're like, thanks, Imahara Joe, and then, she flips a switch to like turn on kill mode of FCG, and is like, y'all deal with them, good luck, and then like pieces out or something. I don't know what, but I did wonder if maybe Dancer's planning something. So
I could definitely see like a contingency plan or maybe even like an escape plan as it were. I'm less inclined to think there's like I'm going to mess you guys up all type of plan. But I think it's totally possible. Um yeah, I mean, do we know how long calm emotions last? Like I wonder if it wore off
I think an
yet.
hour. Let's see.
And I wonder if anything will really change once that wears off.
Oh, 1 minute. Just kidding.
Oh,
Way
okay.
off.
Well, in that
Yeah.
case, I
So
guess there won't be some like dramatic shift.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that once their business is done here with the harness, that this is probably the last we're going to see of Dancer this campaign. Like I don't see this coming back for a round 3 of trying to make things right.
Yeah.
So, with that being the case, and also this is just obviously there's this instance where FCG is kind of messed up. But one thing people have been talking about recently, like in the Discord and stuff, is kind of FCG's like, I don't know, zealotry, if you will, for like the newfound religiousness, like kind of coming off in an abrasive way at times. And like at the table, it's kind of like they're sort of like a joke, but like in character, in world, like FCG is like gone from 0 to 100 in terms of like, believing in all of this. And he has good reason to. I mean, he's literally spoken with the deity, but, trying to make everyone else get on board, I just think that there's been a lot of like low emotional intelligence with FCG, which all makes sense for his character, honestly, in this kind of arc that he's been on from the beginning. But with the dancer chapter presumably closed with no real growth, if we can say that, I wonder what it's going to be that kind of makes FCG kind of like have this introspection and, like has these growth moments. But I guess there's no guarantee that that will happen, but you would like to think that, there will be some growth. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Low EQ for sure. I haven't fully read it as like abrasive in the sense of I've read it more as like Sam, and this has been a little bit of a criticism that people have had, like Sam kind of being like, "Hey, like we kind of need to have this conversation about the gods. Like what are we doing?" Because it has been like so back and forth. So I appreciated that. I think a couple episodes ago. I
Yeah.
will say I definitely felt that though in this episode when they were at the Ari and FCG started to ask Ashton about. It was almost like, so are you like pro Titan now? Like, what would it take for you to be pro God or
Yeah.
something like that? I can't remember what the phrasing was, and it was a little Ashton's like, I'm good, man.
Yeah.
I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah.
So
He's just been kind of pushy. And there is like an
yeah.
above the table kind of
Yeah.
meta to it where like I'm on board with you too. Like the group needed to kind of like sit down and like, hey, like
They
what are
really
we
did.
actually
Yeah.
doing here?
Yeah.
And I too appreciate Sam for kind of like making those moments happen. But then like if we remove ourselves from above the table and just go like purely
Yeah.
in character, FCG has
Yeah.
like often been very like pushy.
Yeah.
So not to just circle back around, but yeah, I think it just speaks to the low EQ, like you
It is
said.
low
And
EQ. Yeah. And it is interesting that the character who is objectively the oldest is in some ways a bit like a child, honestly. It's been interesting to see his character develop, Sam's character develop over the campaign from self-proclaiming to be not soulless, but like not like people, and then sort of discovering their humanity, for lack of a better phrase.
yeah,
And then it's like being born and then like now is a child, like has like this low emotional I mean a lot of adults miss it too, but it is very interesting. I'm really wondering where their end destination will be once the story's all said and done.
yeah. And uh, obviously having issues with what they did to Dancer and some of the other qualities. Like of course, I'm not co-signing that that's a good thing to do. I will say that the character Sam has crafted is fascinating. Like you just said, like this, that whole journey, especially like being a therapy robot that is like in tune with others' emotions and has empathetic links, like literally, kind of could like miss the mark so badly on these types of things. I just think that's like a fascinating like
Yeah.
character arc to explore in Sam's case.
It is a bit interesting. This character who, when they first met Autohan, offered to provide therapy to Autohan, to now seeing the woman that he traumatized and maimed and almost having no thought of that whatsoever.
Yeah, too close to it, probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah, great. Yeah, it's a great way to put it. Huge blind spot for sure.
But
So
yeah, just super interesting. So I've really fascinating character arc. So yeah, I especially like I just said with presumably the dancer door closed. I'm just curious what kind of like inciting incidents are going to cause growth there.
mhm. Just looking at my notes. I loved Orum's. uh, visit to Will and Derek's
So good, man.
graves. It's a beautiful scene. I mean, it was
Classic sad boy Liam
it was
hitting us
just
with the
really
good.
well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
So I'm looking through my notes really quick as well. So we're headed to Imahara Joe, which
Yeah.
I it's probably not fair to say this, but that to me kind of confirms that it was D, not Dancer, that they were being pointed
Mm.
to, because Dancer may still ultimately be the one to help them. And so I guess you could argue that no, it was Dancer, because look, here they are. But since they have to go see Joe, it would just be so funny if Joe is like, you need to go talk to you need to go talk to D.
Unless Dancer was just saying that to get them back to her hometown because she needed to get some tools, to
Well,
I don't
true.
know.
Well,
Or
but
she's
in that
stalling.
case, then it
Oh
was D
yeah,
for
right.
sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Even more correct. Right.
uh, and I really don't see Matt like in my mind. It was definitely D. Like you won't convince me otherwise, even if Dancer solves this problem for them. So I don't think Matt is gonna like be draw a line in the sand and be like, no, you have to go see D now. Like I think he'll, for the sake of the campaign and keeping things moving, he can solve this problem for them with Imahara
Yeah.
Joe and Dancer. Um, but I'm excited and want to see D. I want to learn more about,
Yeah.
all of that.
Right.
So I hope they still do ultimately get pointed toward D, but I don't really see that happening for the reasons I just said.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm assuming we're probably going to get the harness fixed, which I don't know what are they even going to do with it?
They said they want to use it to like super soak or sorry, suck up like Titan, like see what kind of primordial energies they can use in the shattered teeth.
Okay. So
It's like,
presumably one of them
okay,
is going to like don this thing.
I guess, yeah. But I mean, they were like, okay, Ludinus obviously used this. Let's go to the shattered teeth, and we already need to like use the power of the primordials. Like maybe this is the best way to do it.
Well, it's got to be
So
Ashton then, right? Like presumably, like you would
yeah,
think.
yeah, you think
That'll
so? Yeah,
that'll be interesting.
yeah. That'd be interesting is if Chetney attacks Keyleth.
I know. Do you think he will?
He
It's
seems
such
full. Travis seems fully embracing. Like there wasn't even a roll for a wisdom saving throw. He just was like, oh, okay, just full
Well,
on
I
like,
don't think it's tried to take him over yet.
true, true.
So I think
But
that role could still happen.
he could have been straight man Ashton though, or Taliesin, where Taliesin from the get go was like, I don't trust it. What's going on here? Like
Yeah.
Chenny could have easily played it that way, but didn't.
Oh
Instead
yeah.
was like, like I said, embracing the chaos of it. Um, but I do think it's funny that like the party like is full blown like we know it's evil. Like
Put it down.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think it totally makes sense for Chetney's character to at least flirt with it in this way, because Chetney's a wild man. Um, but I think ultimately we know Chetney in some ways is just a big softy, and I don't think he would ultimately make that decision. Now, if he gets charmed, obviously that's a whole different story. But so while I don't think Chetney would ultimately give in, I do think Travis wants to press the red button. So
yes.
it'll be interesting to see like who wins there.
Yeah.
So I think it might come down to if he continues to play with it,
Yeah.
then it might come down to make that wisdom saving throw, and then he may not have a choice after that.
Yeah.
Which what happens? Because Keyleth is healed now. She's not gonna get one shot. There's no way.
Right.
So like he attacks her once, the charm would then break, because if you attack an ally, it breaks. Then what? They're not gonna she's not gonna kill him probably. And so like then is it just really funny chaotic moment, and then it's like, okay, we got to deal with this sword right now. Like I don't really see anything else happening at this point, unless this is like a really long con and there's like some epic Ludinous final battle that Keyleth's at, and then the strike happens at a point where she maybe could be killed by it.
That's where my mind went to. Is like they're going back to Bosros. That's where the Paragon's Call is based. That's where Ottohan is based originally. Could they get into a battle with Ottohan and Keyleth is downed and Grasjar's like, now is the time.
Now's her chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because that was my original fear back when Keyleth was on the brink before they got her healed.
Right.
But now that she's been healed, yeah, I really don't see anything
Yeah.
major happening unless it's something like
Yeah.
you just described.
Yeah.
Which I don't really see a big battle that Keyleth is a part of happening anytime soon. But again, like you said, maybe they get ambushed or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know?
I mean, like I said, the last time they flew near Bosros, the skyship was immediately attacked. So the city is presumably controlled by maybe not presumably. There's a presence there.
I'm trying to remember the skyship part. The last thing I remember is when they left Bosros on a skyship. Is that what you're talking about, or was there another time?
No, I think they like passed by it at some point, and like maybe when they were heading to the excavation site or EOS, and they were like shot at or fired at or something.
Okay.
I think. I don't remember. I could be wrong. So anyway, well, episode number 70 coming up in just a couple of days, the last one of the month, and then next week's Candela Obscura Chapter 2 with our man Brendan Lee Mulligan, who just did a 30-minute interview on it, by the way.
I haven't watched it yet, but I saw that. Did you watch it?
Yeah, not yet. So
I'm excited for that. I'm going to be out of town when that airs, but I still might be able to watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, episode 70, the episode before a long break, as it were. So I wonder if we'll be hit with any painful cliffhangers. Presumably they go to Bosros, and I'm assuming they aren't there very long. Like the harness situation is resolved, and then boom to the Shattered Teeth, because Keyleth wants to get on her way as well. So I'm assuming the majority of next episode might be Shattered Teeth.
I think Matt probably has Keyleth there to get the story. Not that it's like dragging, but in the sense of like without Keyleth, they could very easily like, all right, we're in Bosros. We got to spend a day waiting on the staff again.
Yeah.
Like, let's go shopping. Like, I assume Matt's like, Keyleth is there. Like, I want to eventually get you to the Shattered Teeth, and then I will, goodbye.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I don't think they spend too much time in Bosros.
So it'll be interesting to see. Like we already talked about this in our last episode, and I know we're winding up here, so I won't dive into it again. But I'm just very interested to see everything in the Shattered Teeth with this primordial energy that's just soaked there, and the Tree of Atrophy and Ashton. I'm excited.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys are excited for. You can check out, obviously, the comments of this video, but more importantly, the Discord. You're welcome to join our discussion. Everybody's welcome, whether you're a new critter or a seasoned one. We take them all. So,
it's true.
Other than that, thank you guys for watching today. That's it. Awkward intros and outros.
That's our brand.
Yep. See you later.
Bye, y'all.